Have you ever noticed how the exact moment you literally stop chasing someone, everything just starts to shift? The dynamic completely changes. In this explainer, we're going to break down the profound, absolutely fascinating psychological power of withdrawing your energy. It's a really deep dive into how human dynamics completely flip on their head when you decide to simply step back. We're talking about taking everything we usually think about communication and completely rewiring it.
Okay, let's dive into this immediately, because the very first question that pops up when we feel undervalued or, ignored is this frantic urge to just react. We sit there thinking, do I need to block them? Do I need to send that massive text to beg them to understand my side? Well, the material we're looking at today takes a totally different stance. It turns out you don't have to delete anyone to move on, you don't have to prove to them that you're over it, and you certainly don't need to break yourself trying to be remembered. That initial instinct we all get to force a reaction out of someone, we're going to see exactly why that is, frankly, the absolute least effective thing you can do.
All right, let's get into Section 1, the illusion of closure.
So the ways we typically try to find peace are usually the exact actions that are keeping us trapped. Think about those old, frantic habits for a second. Sending those extra texts, constantly checking their stories to see what they're up to, trying to subtly remind them you exist. We trick ourselves into thinking that if we just explain it one more time, we'll finally get the result we want. But the real shift, the game changer, that happens when you step back entirely. You just stop responding to the version of yourself that desperately needed their validation. You stop feeding the connection. And honestly, by simply doing that, you allow that whole negative dynamic to just naturally fade on its own.
This right here is a massive paradigm shift. Most people think closure comes from conversations, but the truth, it comes from control. I mean, wow, closure isn't this magical external agreement where you both sit down and perfectly figure out what went wrong. Actually, scratch that. It's never like that. Real closure comes from internal control. It's having absolute, unwavering control over where your energy goes and, critically, deciding what you absolutely refuse to chase anymore.
Moving right along to Section 2, the language of silence.
When we look at how quiet detachment is defined here, pay really close attention to what it's not. It is not about giving someone the cold shoulder. It's not about being petty or angry. It's clarity. It is that beautiful moment when you stop trying to be understood by someone who is literally never listening to you in the first place. It's peace, not punishment. When you just detach and step back, you're letting time do what words never could. You are completely removing your emotions from their equation.
Now, this is such a fascinating psychological truth right here. Silence speaks in a language ego can't ignore. When you stop showing up, it's actually not the silence itself that gets to them, it's the sudden, complete absence of your validation. When they realize they can no longer pull your emotion strings or get a reaction out of you, man, that hits their ego so hard. You aren't forcing a message on them anymore. The silence itself becomes the loudest, most powerful message you could ever possibly deliver.
So, the absolutely crucial point is exactly this. Your energy speaks so much louder than your messages. You don't need to draft up a final, dramatic paragraph of text. Your energy, and specifically the withdrawal of it, is the ultimate communicator. When you take your energy away, you are speaking volumes without typing a single letter on your keyboard. You just let the absence do the talking.
Now, what's really interesting about this next part is how predictable the human mind is. Section 3, the 3 stages of loss.
It is completely natural to sit there and wonder how the other person is going to react to your radio silence. Well, predictably, anyone who loses access to you goes through this exact sequence. Stage 1, they don't notice. At first, they're just living their life, totally used to the dynamic exactly as it was. But then comes Stage 2, they wonder. The silence stretches out just a bit longer than usual, and suddenly there's this big question mark. Wait, where did they go? And finally, Stage 3. They feel it. The heavy reality of the shift finally sets in. And here is exactly what that third stage looks like in practice. It's called the echo of absence. Suddenly, they start checking your page again, looking for any little clues. They start replaying in their head how you used to always show up for them, and they remember the effort you gave so easily. And then comes the heavy, sinking realization you are not showing up anymore. And the best part? You never ever have to explain to them why you walked away. If you just walk away with peace, the distance itself will literally deliver the entire message for you.
And that entire process culminates in this one truth. Absence echoes louder than attention ever could. It's almost ironic, right? It is only in this exact moment of your absence that the lesson actually lands for the other person. Your attention, that just became background noise to them.
But your absence? That is a blaring wake-up call.
Which brings us to our final core concept. Section 4, Evolution over Revenge.
This is the turning point where quiet detachment turns into real, tangible, personal evolution. And honestly, this is where most people mess up. They think detachment is about getting revenge, or they're secretly hoping the other person notices they're gone. But instead, we are trading that exhausting need for validation for something way better. Simply moving differently. You don't need revenge. You don't need their attention. You don't even need to be seen by them anymore. What you need is to move differently. You focus so incredibly deeply on your own growth that they have absolutely no choice but to feel your absence through your sheer evolution.
If you take away anything from our time today, I want it to be this: glow in silence. Seriously, nothing hits harder than someone seeing you glow totally unbothered after they've lost access to you. Let it hit them silently. You don't broadcast it, you don't go out of your way to try and make them jealous. You just genuinely thrive in your own space, and that intrinsic, undeniable glow, that's the most powerful outcome possible.
As we near the end of our explainer today, I really want to leave you with this deeply reassuring realization. You were never asking for too much. You were just giving it to the wrong person. If you've been sitting there beating yourself up, wondering if your standards were too high or if your care was just too intense, let that go right now. Your intrinsic value was never the problem. You were just investing your incredible energy in a place that just couldn't hold it. So, the final question I have for you today is this. Are you ready to let your peace do the talking? Are you ready to let your silence remind them of what they took for granted? And honestly, here is the absolute most beautiful part of this entire psychological shift. When they finally reach that third stage and they finally realize what they lost, don't look back, because by the time they figure it all out, you will already be long gone, thriving completely in your own quiet detachment.